Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dorio, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of SimpleClosure. Shutting down a company sucks. Anyone that's been through it knows it. And it turns out it's a big problem. Question for the audience. If you had to guess how many companies shut down in the US every year, please share your guesses. If you know, please don't throw out the answer, but if you don't know, please guess. 100,000. 40,000. 1,000. Any other guesses? 500,000. Okay. 1 million companies. That's right. 1 million companies. There's actually an equal amount of companies that incorporate every year in the US as ones that shut down, but no one is focused on the ones that shut down. And if you ask any founder who's built a company, what was the hardest part? They'll all tell you shutting it down. And that makes no sense. Building a company is hard enough. It doesn't need to be difficult to shut one down. But one of the most common questions I get is, why would you start a company that helps companies shut down? That seems a bit odd. Like, why would you wake up in the morning and do that? And the reason is I've been through it myself. So a bit about my story. I've been a third-time founder. Prior to starting this company, I was the founder of a consumer fintech company called Ernie. We raised Series A, we grew to 3.5 million users. It was a roller coaster. And at a certain point in time, things weren't going so well. I was sitting in a board meeting with our investors presenting the financials, and one of the board members looks at the financials and says, "Hey, Dory, the numbers don't look so good. We're not going to invest any additional capital in the business. I think we need to talk about a plan B." And in my mind, I'm like, what are you talking about? What plan B? We're building a unicorn. Get on board. And the investor's like, "Listen, we don't think you can raise additional capital, and we need to be prepared for the option of shutting down the business." And I'm like, "Okay, what do you want to prepare for?" And the investor said, "Hey, I'd like to see a shutdown analysis for the business." And I'm like, "What does that mean?" And they're like, "Well, we want to understand, what are the costs? What are the timelines? Do we need to lay people off? Are there severance packages? Can we get out of our office obligations?" And they flooded me with a ton of questions. And the truth is I didn't have an answer to any of those questions. So I told the board, "Let me do some homework and get back to you." I went home that evening from the board meeting, and the first thing I did is I went to Google, and I Googled, how do you shut down a startup? I was hoping to find a platform, a company, a service provider that could help me through this process. And obviously, that was the furthest away from what I could find. The next thing is that I said to myself, let's go talk to other founders in the ecosystem and pick their brain. I'm sure I'm not the first founder shutting down. Let's go to my LinkedIn and search for founders in my network that had shut down, and let's pick their brain. And so I started going through my LinkedIn, and I couldn't find anyone. And after a few hours, I realized it wasn't that no one was shutting down. It's no founder likes to write about that on LinkedIn. Everyone likes to keep that secret or confidential. And the last thing I actually did is I actually spoke to our lawyers and our CPAs, firms, large firms that had been supporting us through fundraising Series A. And I was sure they would jump on the opportunity to make more money. But instead, the reaction was like, "Oh, yeah, shutting down, that's not really our bread and butter. I have a friend of a friend. He has a boutique law firm. He might be able to help you, but that's not something we really specialize in." And so I really rolled up my sleeves, and I dove into the world of shutting down. I started speaking to industry experts, ABCs, for those that are not familiar, assignments for the benefit of creditors, understanding the ins and outs, Chapter 7, Chapter 11, bankruptcy, and all the moving parts, and I ended up putting a playbook together for our company and presented the board. I learned the ins and outs of shutdowns, and I vowed that no founder will ever have to go through the experience that I went through. And for those that are not familiar with what makes shutting down so hard, is that you actually have to orchestrate and quarterback all these moving parts in order to shut down a company. So you have to quarterback between your law firm and your bank and your payroll provider and your HR provider and unemployment departments and contractors. And until you don't orchestrate and quarterback that, you can't actually shut down and move on. And what makes this even harder is that there's no universal process. Every vendor, every state agency, every service provider has a different process, from faxes and phone calls and emails. It's very time consuming. The average time it takes to shut down a venture-backed company is 9 to 12 months. And it can be really, really expensive if you use traditional service providers. So that's where SimpleClosure comes in. We've brought this complicated, convoluted process into this beautiful platform and product experience. Our value proposition is very simple. First of all, we use technology to make sure it's done right. In almost every instance where we go to shut down a company, we find open issues and forgotten states and registrations that founders and lawyers forget. The second thing is we save companies on average 7 months in the shutdown process. So we're driving it down from 9 to 12 months on average to less than 60 days. And we're typically 85% less expensive than a traditional shutdown. And in terms of traction, it's become our expertise. In less than 2 years, we've shut down more companies than a corporate transaction attorney does in their entire career. And we're just growing and accelerating more and more. A bit about the company. We're over 35 employees. We'll probably be closer to 45, 50 by the end of the year. We've raised over $20 million in funding. We've returned over $150 million in capital to investors from companies that have shut down. And we're named one of Fast Company's top most innovative companies in 2025. But most importantly, we partner and work closely with a lot of the ecosystem. Here's just a few logos from some of the partners, investors, and firms that we've supported or partner with today. But why does this matter, and what is my ask from the room? Everyone in this room is either an entrepreneur themselves or they support an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs are the backbone of our economy in the US. If that's building a company, being a service provider for a company, or being a platform or product for a company, we all support entrepreneurs. And so our goal is to get entrepreneurs and business owners back to building and not spending a year of their life shutting down their business and not moving the economy forward. So our goal is to support them on that journey and bring them back into the ecosystem as fast as possible. What's really interesting that on our platform, 60 to 70% of the founders that are shutting down their businesses are already working on their next venture, their next company. So if you think about it, if you're a lawyer, an accountant, or a service provider, we want to bring those entrepreneurs back into the ecosystem so they're again using us and using our services and working with us. So if we can get people back on their feet without the stress and reducing that time, it's in all of our best interests. And so if anyone here works with an entrepreneur or supports an entrepreneur, we want to be working with you. Thank you.